Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Foreign.
What's up, everybody? It's Herschel Foreign from High School Top 200, and this is the Monday morning meeting. Welcome back. As you can see, I'm in a different room. Still at work, doing my work while I'm doing my other work. And just before I start off, do all that stuff that you do. Subscribe, link, comment, all that other kind of stuff. Share with a friend, and then go to hstop200.com and subscribe for $5 for the month. Sacrifice the extra coffee and sign up to the website. Also, again, it is a $5 subscription. What it says there is not what it actually is. It's not free. It's not free. Wording wasn't done by me, but that's what it is, and I've got to get it changed when I get more money. But this is just another week of First Team Rugby for everyone and everyone that is new. My name is Herschel Fruin, and I run High School Top 200, and everything that you see on the website and on the Facebook page and Instagram, that's all me. And so I do this for the love of the game, for the love of the boys, and hopefully trying to get boys as much opportunities as possible, because I know how slim of a chance it is for boys to not just get opportunities, but even when you get opportunities, to also take it to the next step. So I'm just trying to help boys get an extra leg up and just help them out in some way and giving them some exposure. Quickly, it's just more about rankings. I rank the top 200 players in the country. I also rank the top 100 year 11s, as well as top 60 year top 100 year 12s and top 60 year 11s, and also the top 100 teams in the country as well. So I span the full country of all the best first teams in the country and put them in a ranking. It's more for people to get an idea of what we've got here in New Zealand in terms of talent. Also, just to show how much teams that we have in New Zealand, how much schools there are, and how much of the country actually plays rugby and play also at a high level as well. So I go from as far as the top and all the way down to the bottom as well. So I try and expand as much as I can to get as many players involved and get them talked about. For me, it's just about making sure that everyone has at least a fair shot of being seen or heard of or talked about. So that's what I do. We are down actually to the last few weeks of every competition in the country, and it is probably the most intense year, I think, that I've seen in a long time. There have been so many teams that have been dominant in each competition, which is not like a new thing. Like they do have dominant teams all the time, but I think this year is the first time that most competitions are still up for grabs in terms of being able to make the top four in their competitions, also make a run. Make a run at the playoffs, and there's so many teams in contentions and different little competitions that I think that this has got to be one of the best finishes that we're probably going to see throughout all the years that I've done High School Top 200, which is on my 10th year. So I've seen a lot of first 15 rugby. I've seen a lot of teams sort of rise, and I've seen a lot of teams also fall as well when it comes just to the last few games of the season. So like what I'm going to do, obviously, is I want to go through all the competitions, all the major competitions in the country, look at all the teams that are sort of on the edge of missing out, maybe look at some of the teams that still have a shot, that still have a lot of hope and hype, and a lot of hope, and also guys that are the teams that are on a high, because I think that like the way that you're finishing this competition, or the finishing your competition, also is going to sort of dictate how you're going to do when it comes down to the regions top fours, and making your region side, and making sure that you not only finish as winners in your competition, or that you're also in a good position to be able to go on to also have another shot at making the national championship, and representing your region in the top four in Palmy, I guess, what is it, end of August, beginning of September, which it is. And so I'm going to start with North Harbour, and we'll start with North Harbour only because like there is a clear winner with North Harbour, and there's obviously Westlake Boys, and being able to see Westlake Boys and how good they have done pretty much right from the beginning of the year, when I saw them play against Hastings in their warm-up game, and they lost against Hastings, but there wasn't like a bad loss or anything like that, because I thought, and I knew that a lot of these boys that were in that first 15 were guys that were new to first 15. They came off a really good under 15s campaign the year before, and I knew that they were going to take some time to get used to what first 15 rugby was. And I'm actually really happy that Westlake Boys chose to play teams like Hastings and Hamilton, who they both lost to less than 7 points on both of those games. But it also showed those young boys that were coming in that this is the standard that you kind of want to be at, and this is what it's going to take for you to not just win your competition, but then look forward to going, okay, we need to beat whoever's in that Blues finals, and whoever's winning that 1A in Auckland. That's kind of like your target. And the coaching staff for Westlake Boys have done so good with how they've been able to get these young boys to mold with the older boys that are already part of the team, the older boys that have gone through last year's top four, found that they were kind of out of place, and then they're just making another run at it. And I think that Westlake have another massive chance of going back to back to the top four for that Blues region. And Westlake Boys, to me, is that team that's going to go through. And like, this is kind of like one of those things where I don't really have a doubt about how good Westlake Boys is. I've seen them against Massey, and they pretty much played them out of that second half. I've seen them against Hamilton Boys, against Hastings, against New Plymouth. I've seen their games against Rosmini. I've seen a game against what was the other one? Whangarei is the other one I think I saw. I saw a bunch of highlights that they did against Manurewa, which was just not worth playing, I think, which is a sad thing, but it's just kind of the way that it is. But in North Harbour, they come down to, it's Westlake right now, Massey second, Rosmini third, Takapuna fourth, and then Whangarei is next. Massey and Rosmini play this coming week, which I'm thinking about going to that game. I'm not too sure yet. I'm thinking about going to that game. I'm not too sure if I promised somebody else that I've already promised going to their game, but that Rosmini Messi is going to be a massive game. But then Messi have Rosmini, Rangitoto, and Manurewa. So Messi could end up staying second if they beat Rosmini on Saturday. They would definitely win those other two with Rangitoto and Manurewa. Rosmini have to play Messi, Whangarei boys, then Rangitoto. Rosmini is the same as where they kind of just have to get past Messi, and whoever takes that game goes into second place and obviously has the advantage of having home field advantage too. Takapuna is the one I think is the one that's probably going to have to sit at fourth place, because they have to play Westlake this week. Then they play Otago College, and then they play Whangarei boys. And they're not going to beat Westlake, but I think they can win the other two, and I think they would be able to keep their spot. And Whangarei, I think, is too far away to make it. So the top four is set for North Harbour, but getting that home advantage is going to be important, because all these teams, they all know that Westlake is going to win, but you don't want to play Westlake at number 4. So Rosmini is going to have to win those last 3 games. They can't cough it up against Whangarei boys, and Whangarei could go on a run and beat Rangitoto in their first game, and then they'll beat Rewa, and then if they win against Takapuna and have all 3, they have a shot at making that top 4 as well. I just don't see Takapuna losing to Otago College, which is the one that kind of saves them from dropping out of that top 4. All I know is that Massey's not going to want to lose. Rosmini's not going to want to lose. They both want to keep that number 2 spot, and they want to at least make that finals for the North Harbour Comp, because that's like the most important thing. And then I think from there they're just going to want to try and make a good run at it. I think finals are different because finals sometimes the event of the final can either bring out the best or the worst in you, kind of thing. And even when a team is far better than everyone else, you still have to play on the day. You still have to go through the first whistle right to the end of the last whistle, and you still have to play every phase. You have to play every line out and scrum, and you have to actually go through with the game. You can't just choose at the beginning and go, yeah, don't worry about it, this is what's going to happen. So for that North Harbour, Rosmini's the one to watch out for, Massey's the one to watch out for. Takapuna should not lose falling out of that top 4, and just kind of watch out for Whangarei and see what happens with them, because they might make a run, and you never kind of know with Whangarei boys either. Rewa's probably the one that's going to be the most looked at to scab some of those points, because coming to the end of all the competition, you're kind of looking at your schedule going, okay, these are the teams that we should not lose to, and Rewa's going to be one of those ones that are supposed to be short points for all these teams as well. All these teams as well. Moving down to the 1A in Auckland, there's going to be massive games this week. The hardest road with the last 3 games of the season, it's got to be Kelson. Kelson have got Sacred Heart this week. They've also got Sacred Heart, then they've got St. Kitts, and then they've got St. Peter's. The top 3 teams in the competition for the 1A right now are St. Kitts, Sacred Heart, and St. Peter's. And Kelson boys has to play all those 3 games, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but That's what they're looking at right now. They could make a run of all three. It's hard to see them win all three. They just lost just the other day to Tauranga Boys, which was a sort of a tough one to see in one of their traditionals that they have. But that's going to be a hard one. That's going to be a hard one. Because they could lose all three games and lose that last spot. St. Kitts is on 39, Sacred Heart's on 34, 33 for St. Peter's, and then Kelston Boys and Auckland Grammar are both on 30, and then De La Salle is on 23. But De La Salle have got Tangaroa College, Liston College, and King's College. All three teams they should beat. They should get max points from all those three games as well, which would shoot them up into the top four if all goes well. Auckland Grammar have to play Mags, which I think Auckland Grammar would win. They have to also play St. Peter's and then play Sacred Heart. Those last two games, I don't know if they can win those two. I don't think that they have enough. They'll come close to St. Peter's, but I think St. Peter's might win in the end. But I think that game is maybe a 5 to 7 point gap between those two teams, and Grammar have got to play their best on that game, and hopefully they've got to hope that St. Peter's just have one, just have a bad game. But I honestly don't see Auckland Grammar beating St. Peter's in that game, and I don't think that they can beat Sacred Heart either. But they've got to make sure that Mags game is a good one for them. Mags can actually spoil it for them a lot. If Mags can win this weekend against Auckland Grammar, it's going to be a massive surprise. And it's going to be like a real bad thing for, Auckland Grammar to sort of carry. They can't get too ahead of themselves. You can't take Mags lightly because they do have a really good. They do have a good team that can win games. Mags just haven't been playing like they want to contend, if you know what I mean. Auckland Grammar have been up and down. They've started getting really good with their streak that they have going on right now, but they still have to watch out for De La Salle, who are right behind them on 23, and they've got an easier schedule going into these finals with Tangaroa College, Liston College, and King's College as well. De La Salle have to be also that team as well that goes. We can't skip over the fact that we still have to play these three teams. Liston's not the bad Liston that we're used to. King's College still are King's College. They may have a really, really young team, and even though we saw them get pulled apart by Palmy Boys, they still have a talented young core group of players, and they could just turn it around. It could just click with them on the last game, and De La Salle cannot have that happen to them on their game. So De La Salle's thing is to play every single one of those last games like it's their finals, because it pretty much is. They've got to play them like final energy, like top four energies. They've got to go back. They got to repeat back what they did last year of going to the top four, and they just can't let those games go. So the fight for it really is that everyone's going to fight for that last spot. I don't have good feelings about Kelston going through. Mags are too far away with 21, and they have Auckland Grammar, they have Sacred Heart, and they have St. Kitts. So I don't know what the chances are of winning those last all three games. I can see them maybe beating Auckland Grammar, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I'll pick Auckland Grammar on that one. But they're too far away. But De La Salle's not far away. Auckland Grammar's right there. Auckland Grammar have to make some kind of a run, but they're also in that bad position where they have to play St. Peter's and also Sacred Heart. St. Kitts is already set. Sacred Heart is already set. St. Peter's, who also have actually a hard run as well, with Kelston this weekend, then they have to play the Auckland Grammar game, and then they have to play Kelston Boys. So even for them, it's not like an easy run either. So even at 33 points, they are not safe on 33 points. If they happen to lose all those 3 games, they're going to miss out. If they lose all those 3 games, they're going to lose. They're going to miss out. Sacred Heart probably has the easier route to the end, but I mean, to me, they're safe at 34. They're safe. They got Kelston, which they could lose, but I don't think they will. They'll beat Mags, and I think they can beat Auckland Grammar. So to me, it's just like, no, they're going to be fine. St. Kitts is the same. They play St. Peter's, which even with the strongest team, we've seen St. Peter's beat them, so that you can't really rule that part out. Then they got Kelston, but then they have Mags at the end, which I think they'll make it through against Mags. And so, so that 3rd place, 4th place is still up for grabs, and we got 4 teams still running in for those last 2 spots. My pick is probably going to be De La Salle and St. Peter's are probably going to take those last 2 spots. St. Peter's just have to win one of those games. Yeah, they just have to win one of those games, St. Peter's does. Even Kelston just has to... you're asking a lot from Kelston. It's hard to ask a lot from Kelston right now. For them to go on a run of Sacred Heart, St. Kitts, and St. Peter's. And this is going to be the first time for those boys where they're really going to feel a lot of pressure of having to win a game. And let's say that Kelston loses. Even though they have to mathematically wait for somebody else to hopefully let someone lose and all that kind of stuff, they still have to make it for that second to last round and still bring the same energy, still bring the same enthusiasm and hope and belief that they can do it. And that's kind of like the hardest thing to coach, especially for these young guys. It's like, and even older players too, like it's not like there's not an age where you should learn this or learn it by, but having that self-belief and that team belief that even when there's a loss and you're waiting on the mathematics, that you can still train like your winners, still act like your winners, still conduct yourself like your winners, and take the field and then have a kickoff like you're a winner. A lot of that stuff isn't easy to do, and it's not easy to believe in yourself when you know that you've just lost the game and you've got to get prepared for that next week. And then you have to hype everybody up and go, we can still do this. Having a group of, 30 people, including, subs as well as coaching staff, to all believe that even when you've lost that first game, knowing that you needed 3 wins, to even go after that first game and go, look, we still got a mathematical chance. Let's still train and prepare like we're still going to make it. And that's for all these teams too. Like, I am just talking about Kelston right now, but Auckland Grammar is the same. Auckland Grammar is on a really good run right now. And let's say that they lose to Mags, which is a game that they should win. That's going to be a big damper on them as well. But then they have to look at St. Peter's and go, all right, this is a must win. Like we can't accept anything less than a win. And then also knowing that like you have to play second hard after that. This is going to be the first for a lot of these boys to even go, let's forget about last week, because that's going to be a hard thing to do. Forgetting about last week is like a hard thing to do. But this is going to be a big test for all these boys, all boys that are going to be in these situations. And this Auckland 1A, Auckland, the way that they're going to finish in these last 3 weeks is going to be real heavy. It's going to be tight. It's going to be emotional. And if you're a friend of one of these guys that's in these teams going through this, just give them a pass. Give them a pass on what they say and how they react to certain stuff, because they might be on edge too. They might be on edge. A lot of these boys have trained so hard to try and make it, and emotionally, I think there's going to be a big learning curve for a lot of them. And the 1A is going to be real interesting. That's why it sucks. That's why it sucks that it's not on TV. Because if it was on TV, we'd be able to get to see these boys and see them in action and just be able to feel it through the screens that we watch it, and how much these boys want to win these games. And that's what we like watching when it comes, especially the first 15 rugby. If we go to let's talk about CNI, because CNI is still my favorite competition right now to watch, and all these teams, and we're looking at, if you look at the standings, right? The standings are, we still got Whanganui Collegiate with only one loss. St. John's Hamilton is second, Fielding is third, and Fielding just had their loss yesterday to Napier Boys. Close 17-15 or 15-13, something like that. They just lost. Wesley sitting in at fourth, St. Paul's Collegiate at 5, and St. Peter's at 6. And then Francis Douglas is under that, but man, Francis Douglas is such a good team, and it's so sad that they're in this competition on this year where it's such a tight year that everyone were just all good at one time. It's so strange that it's like that, but everyone was just, it was like they all gunned for the same year. Whanganui is on 31, St. John's on 27, Fielding's on 26, 24 is Wesley, and St. Paul's Collegiate is 24, and then St. Peter's is 21. Now we've only got 2 more games left for everybody, and I think Wesley's got a make-up game because they still need to play St. John's Hastings, which they couldn't travel down to before. But this weekend, Wesley have Fielding at home, which is going to be a big decider between those two. St. Peter's have to travel down to Lindisfarne. St. Paul's Collegiate, they play Whanganui Collegiate. Oh, damn. Alright, that kind of messes up my plans. If I've got to choose... Damn, I've got too many good games all at one time. Either Massey... okay, so Massey's going to be Massey Rosmini, Wesley Fielding, or I stay home in Hamilton for... Oh, damn, there's 2 good games. St. Paul's Collegiate and Whanganui Collegiate. Okay, so I don't know which game I'm going to go to, but I'll end up at one of your guys' games. St. John's also played Rathkill, which I say that St. John's is going to win that, but then St. Paul's Collegiate, Whanganui Collegiate, even though Whanganui had a bad loss against St. Kitts this past week, didn't play with Tully. Tully wasn't there. I don't think he would have made up the gap of those points, but it would have been a lot better because he plays a massive part in that team of the way that they direct themselves around the field. Now, it wouldn't have been that big of a score, but I still think they would have lost to St. Kitts. But if he's back this week, I don't know what's wrong with him. I haven't actually reached out and asked. But there's going to be a big decision on whether he plays or not, and whether they want to push his injury to make sure that they stay at the top of this leaderboard, because St. Paul's could give them a massive run and wreck it for them. And Whanganui have to play St. Paul's and then play Fielding for their last two games. And if they drop both of those two games and Hamilton play Rathkill and St. Paul's Collegiate as their last two games, yeah, that's not going to look good for Whanganui Collegiate. Because even like Whanganui have to play St. Paul's, then they have to play Fielding, and St. Paul's have to play Whanganui, and they have to play St. Man, this is going to end. And then Wesley still have a game in hand. They play St. John's, I think they'll win. But they'll play Fielding this week, and I think we have to wait after this week. Because Wesley will play St. John's, Fielding, and then their last game of the season is down in New Plymouth against Francis Douglas. So that's going to be like a major one as well. Because if Wesley's in a good position, like let's say that they beat Fielding this weekend, they beat that St. John's and they move up, but they can't relax on that last game. They have to be able to finish and have either, or they have to have a semi-final home game. They have to. Because like when you have a semi-final, especially like, you don't want to have a semi-final if you have to travel to Whanganui Collegiate or if you have to travel to Fielding. I don't think that they would mind if they had to come here to Hamilton, because that's not that far away. There's not really that. You can make that in a morning trip and then still get here early enough where the boys can just loosen up, go play in the gym, get their bodies right, things like that. But when you have to go overnight, you're sleeping in another bed, you're billeted out, you're like things like that, where your mind is not really that focused, or it's hard to stay focused when you're not there as a team. And that could be one of those hard ones. And Wesley need to have one of those home semi games as well. Fielding's going to be doing the same. Because Fielding have Wesley and then Whanganui Collegiate. So all these games at the end of it too are all going to... I kind of feel like St. Paul's and St. Peter's miss out. If St. Paul's wins this week against Whanganui Collegiate, and even if they lose to St. John's, I still think that they actually have a shot at making it in. But I think that this one here against Whanganui Collegiate this Saturday is probably the main one. That would be the main one. Because that's going to be a hurtful one for Whanganui if they lose this one, because then they have to try and back it up against Fielding. I don't feel like they have that much. They don't have enough points to sort of say, because they're only on 31. You're only on 31 points. St. John's is 27, 26 for Fielding, and then St. Paul's Collegiate and Wesley are both on 24. And remember, Wesley's still got a game in hand against St. John's, who they can beat. But they're making sure that they've got to fit in that game against St. John's. I mean, if I was Wesley, I would play Fielding this weekend and then set up my game for Monday to play against St. John's and travel down to St. John's, and then to give yourself that time to recover so that after you've played after you've played Fielding, I think they can still play on the Monday with just that one day of rest and still beat St. John's, but then have that time to recover so that they can play Francis Douglas and sort of end the year properly, and that they don't take that last game for granted. Now, like, you may be saying, oh, they're taking St. John's for granted. I was like, but there's a big difference between St. John's Hastings to Francis Douglas. Like, they can't, like, they wouldn't be able to play Fielding on a Saturday and then play Francis Douglas on the Monday. No, they'll lose. Francis Douglas is too good to talk about them like that. But Hastings, St. John's Hastings, is not that same kind of team. And yes, they've got someone like Patrick who's there, who's this big, massive, ball-running number 8. But with a team like Wesley, I think that they can be able to handle that, get that initial, I guess, tiredness out of the way, and then not have full trainings on, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and then keep that body, going, just have run-throughs at the park, just run through sets, don't have no contact at all, and just have that recover for the Francis Douglas game, so that when they do travel down to New Plymouth, it's not so bad, and they also have, fresh bodies. But they'll be the ones that I feel like are probably going to be the ones that make it through, because it's too. St. Peter's on 21. That's going to be a hard ask for them at 21. It's not impossible, but it's just a hard ask. It's just a hard ask to ask, to get St. Peter's, who, even though I think they'll win against Lindisfarne, and actually no, I'm wrong. They'll have Lindisfarne, and then they have St. John's Hastings. Those are the last 2 games. And that's on the 22nd and then the 29th. And if you get full points, they probably have to wait for their mathematics as well, but even then it's just like, man, that could scrape them through, especially if everybody else has even one loss is a big one, and that's going to be a big one coming towards the end, is that even that one loss could really sink your season right there and then. And then, like, same thing with the Towson scenario, is that, like, knowing that you have to play another big team the next week, you're like, man, can we lift ourselves up? And I think that the funny thing is that, like, St. John's on the first week, right? St. John's should have beaten Wellington Collegiate. Fell asleep right at the end. There was a draw between St. Peter's and Wesley College, which was like another one that was like really one of those games you're like, oh shoot, that wasn't what we expected. Wesley was the same when they St. Paul's had a real close run-in with Rafka where they almost lost. Probably should have got a lot more points on that one, which kind of would have helped them out with the for and against, and push them up the ladder. But it's those kind of ones that games that could hurt. But this is still the most exciting competition going right now, and pretty much every team they got 7 teams still running for four spots, and that's massive in a competition in New Zealand for that. To me, that's a solid competition. You got to be pretty happy with the amount of talent and amount of teams that are all playing at a high level to be able to do that. The Super 8 has come down to Hamilton is still sitting at number 1. Hamilton have Gisborne and Hastings to play. So it goes Hamilton, New Plymouth, Tauranga Boys, Palmy, Hastings, Rotorua. And there is Napier Boys at second. They play New Plymouth and then they play Palmy in the Pulse and Banner one. Tauranga Boys play Hastings, then they play Gisborne. Palmy play Rotorua this weekend, then they play Napier the week after. Hastings play Tauranga and then Hamilton Boys, and then Rotorua play Palmy Boys and New Plymouth Boys. Hamilton right now are the only ones that are locked in for number 1, and I think Tauranga is probably going to be fighting it out with Napier Boys to see who takes that top. And I think the reason why I say that is because Palmy have to play Rotorua Boys and then Napier Boys. And both teams are, I think with Rotorua Boys, you're just going to have to hope that they're tired coming back from Argentina and going, man, I hope you guys bashed yourselves over there because we're really going to take it to you this week. And that would be my angle on these fellas. Be like, cool, I hope you fellas are tired. You guys had that mean ass trip. Cool. Now we're going to beat you out of the Super 8, and we're going to go for that top spot. But remember, this is not a top 4 situation. It's just that one spot. So Napier Boys is the only one that's in that spot right now, and Tauranga Boys to me are the only ones that can realistically steal that spot. I think that because that hard game is going to be, I think that Tauranga Boys can beat Hastings and they're going to beat Gisborne and they're going to win those 2 games. Napier Boys have to win those 2 games against New Plymouth Boys and against Palmy. Now Palmy, if they beat Rotorua Boys and they beat Napier Boys, it's going to be one of those depending on how much points they score kind of situations. And so I don't know, I hope just the way that it finishes, that you kind of get the right team there. I think that's what we're hoping for, is that you kind of get the right team there at the end with Hamilton Boys. And even though Hamilton Boys lost, and that's fine. I mean, Napier Boys played to the conditions. They played a style of rugby that suited. They didn't chance a lot of things, but those are kind of directions that you take. And when you play in conditions like that, Hamilton decided to play it a different way, and Napier won that one. That's just kind of the way. And then Napier had a good win yesterday against Fielding too, so they're really on a rise in terms of the rankings, and are definitely looking at a top 5 team. But also, this is going to be massive for them going into these last 2 rounds. And I think they can beat New Plymouth boys, but also New Plymouth boys have nothing to lose, and they could just go out there and just throw their bodies around and make it so difficult for Napier to, to come out with such an easy win. And I think like a lot of the times in the Super 8, it's just like getting a win. Even when you've lost all your games that whole year, making it hard for someone to win is also a massive achievement as well. It's just like, we may not be able to place in the top, 2 or 3 in this competition, but we're definitely going to make it hard for you guys to get to that next game. And that's what I think New Plymouth boys can do as well. Is like, because they had a massive run against Westlake boys, and then that second half they just went to sleep in that second half. They didn't play hard from the start of the kickoff of their second half, and then Westlake boys they just played with speed right from the gun. And I think it was Alex was the one that chased down a kick. And did he score off it? But he chased it down, and it was like a nothing kick. Like you could be like, well, this just started the second half. That's just a kickoff. Don't worry about it. But Alex took the other approach of like, well, I'm here to play rugby, and that's what I'm going to do. And he just chased it down, kicked it, and got him in the in goal as well. So it was like one of those situations. And New Plymouth just didn't wake up after that. And after that first half, I thought New Plymouth was going to keep it close the whole time because they were clearly in it, and they made it hard. And I'd never even seen Westlake fight that hard to get out of something. And New Plymouth was just right there with them. And New Plymouth coughed up a try as well that I thought, like, man, usually they score off that kind of stuff. And like when you have a young team like New Plymouth has this year with hardly any experience, it's hard for you to blame their situation that they're in. And it's hard to go, they should have known this, they shouldn't have known that, they should have done that. Because like, Jack and Reeves and Jacob, they can't really do everything for those boys because they're the older ones. They don't really they can't really pick everybody up. There's just not enough of them. And I just felt sorry for them because they had it in that first half, and they were a few phases away from tries that they should have completed. It just didn't work out for them. I still think that they can play, they can end the season, and because they have Rotorua too, and they could just spoil it for guys. So like, just be that team that spoils it for people, or that makes it really hard to get wins. Just be that team. But Hamilton boys are going to be number 1, and then mostly likely their final is going to be Napier boys. But either Napier boys or Tauranga boys, and I think that would be a really good final too. One of those two teams coming up, because they've all played great. In Wellington, there's not much to talk about in terms of the top 2 because we already know that Scots and Silverstream. But Hibs winning against Wairarapa was massive. Hibs have now got Wellington College and St. Pat's Town, and 2 hard games for them to win. I think that they can win it, but I don't know whether they believe that they can win it. And that's going to be the hard thing too, because Hibs haven't been in this situation before. The team hasn't been in this culture of winning like they have been this year. And I really hope that they've got this program set up that even if they have this massive year this year, next year, even if they take 1 step back, at least it's not 4 steps back. And they've got guys that can fill into that first 15 that know what is expected of them. But Hibs need to beat Wellington College and St. Pat's Town. St. Pat's Town, who's sitting 4th, They've got Silverstream, which I don't think they're going to have a hard game, but I don't think they're going to win. But they need to beat Hibs in that second one for them to stay in that top 4. Because Whited Upper have St. Brennan's, what I think they can win, and then they got Rongotai, which I think that they can win too. So Whited Upper is that other threat. Wellington College have Hibs, and then they have Tawa as their last game of the season. And if they can do that, see, because I think that Hibs can be knocked out by losing those 2 games. If Whited Upper win those 2 games, they will move up, and St. Pat's Town just have to win one of those games. And to me, the only sure thing is Whited Upper, because I think that they can beat St. Brennan's, and I think that they can beat Rongotai. And even if Hibs end up winning both of those games, it'll be them and Whited Upper. But if Hibs loses one of those games, it's going to be Whited Upper in either Town or Wellington College. And either one of those teams out of Wellington College or Town are going to miss out as well. Because Whited Upper is going to be the other sure thing that goes in. And this competition is so close just between those, like, it's either like Hibs, Town, Whited Upper, and Wellington College. Those 4 teams are fighting for 2 more spots. And I don't know. It sucks that Town have, Silverstream to play, because that's not an easy game for them. And the worst thing is that here's like a scenario, and I don't think Town are going to do it, because I think Town is too proud of a school to do this. It's a stupid tactic, but Town could put on a second 15 against Silverstream and go, look, we don't want all our guys to get bashed up by this game, knowing that we have a better chance next week. But if we get our boys bashed up at this game and try and carry them through to next game and play Hibs, we're not doing ourselves any kind of favors. And the sad thing is that is going to be a real reality to some of them, and like even to the coaches are going to have to think about that too. They're going to go, should we just give this game away, because we know we can't beat Stream, but we have a real chance of making top 4, and we just got to make sure we got to win that Hibs game. And then if we win that Hibs game, hopefully we make that top 4 and that we can still be in contention. Then we will chuck our real team back in there. After the top 4, if we can skip this Silverstream game with just a second 15, and then we'll chuck our real first 15, make a real good run against Hibs, and go, well, we're putting it all in this Hibs game. Because like if Wellington College beat Hibs in the first game, and then St. Pat's Town do this and they go, oh shoot, we'll just look for that second one because they've already lost out, and then just try and get a bigger score. Because Wellington College will be the same too, is that Wellington College, they just need to beat Hibs because they can beat Tawa. Tawa's just going to be that team that stands in their way and goes, oh, you could probably beat us, but we're going to make this friggin' hard for you guys. We're going to make sure you guys work for this. Wellington College is also coming off the fact that they won the quad, they beat a team that they probably shouldn't have beaten, that they're not better than, but they need to start playing like that's where they need to be, and they need to be in that realm of those kind of teams, because right now they're not looked at as one of those kind of teams. And even talking to some people from Wellington, they even say the same thing. They go, oh, no, they weren't better than Whanganui Collegiate, but they just won on the day, and that's great. But we still don't see them as a threat to the Wellington competition. No, like if I was Wellington, I'd be pretty pissed off if I heard people talk like that about our team. But they are in that situation because right now, they Hibs is third, Town is fourth, Wairarapa is fifth, and Wellington College is sixth. So as much as Wellington College may say, hey, you guys got to give us that respect, it's like, yeah, but you're talking from a sixth place position. Even though you have a shot, like right now, you're sitting in sixth place. So that's the conversation that you kind of have to have. You're like, well, we understand what you're saying, Wellington, but at the same time, you're still sitting from a sixth position. And if you don't beat Hibs this week, then you're not making it through, I don't think. Because you still got Town in front of you, you still got Wairarapa in front of you, you still got Hibs in front of you. Like, it's like, yeah, you got to win both of those games. And Hibs have to really take it all out on this game against Wellington College. That would be the game that I would focus on. Regardless of what St. Pat's Town do, just like, no, I'm going to focus on this game. And in like the scenario of like, let's see a new top four, if that was me, I'll be like, I hope Hibs and Wairarapa win. But to me, I'm feeling like it's going to be Wairarapa and St. Pat's Town. And if it's not St. Pat's Town, I think it's Hibs. And Wellington College guys are going to be pretty annoyed with what I'm saying, but it's just how I feel right now anyway. In the Miles Toyota Cup down in Christchurch, it's pretty set on who the top team is down there because it's obviously Nelson and everybody else is too far away. There's only like one spot left. Nelson's got the first one, Christchurch Boys has got the second one, and they're on 39 and 36, and then St. Thomas is on 30. St. Bede's and St. Andrews are in 4th and 5th, and they're on 20 points. There's only one more game left. St. Bede's have to play St. Bede's are playing Shirley, and then St. Andrews are playing Christ College. And pretty much whoever wins that game goes through. And then that's kind of the situation that you're at. Is that if you win, you go through. And if Christ win, and if Christ beats Stack, if Christ beats St. Andrews, and St. Bede's loses to Shirley, Christ College go through. But if Marlborough also, if Marlborough win against Christchurch Boys, and I'm just saying this, I don't think it's going to happen because Christchurch Boys is going to win. But if that happens, then Marlborough will go through. But I have a feeling that Christ College is going to beat St. Andrews. I just have this feeling that they are. St. Bede's shot themselves in the foot by losing to Selwyn and really, it just really didn't help them out. Selwyn played the game that they were supposed to play, and they beat a full strength St. Bede's team. Then I know St. Bede's players can come and tell me that, oh no, we had this, and whatever. It's like, no, you're a far better team than Selwyn, and they really did make St. Bede's look average, which is hard to do because they're such a good team. But they put themselves in that situation, and St. Bede's just never. I think it was one of those situations where they go, oh, this is just one of those things. We'll just run through this and then we're done. We'll just carry on with our next game. We should be all right. And then Selwyn came through serious and thought, well, that's how you're going to take us, and sweet as. And then just showed them the business, and then they got their first win over them. Got their first win over St. Bede's. For Selwyn to see it, and this is like a message to all you boys that in that Selwyn combined team, and you schools that are a part of it, is that you boys have to start believing that you guys deserve to be there. You also have to start training in the summer like you belong in the Miles Toyota Cup. Not that you're trying to solidify yourselves there. You guys are already there. You have to start training and believing that too, because you guys are also getting picked up for rec teams as well. Sean is one of the best hookers in the country, and even like Kenza and even George, like you fellas are solidified players in the country. But you guys have to believe it, and then the younger boys, you have to tell those younger boys, like, oh no, we're up with those guys. Let's just train like we belong there. Having someone like Liam who got injured last year, he was out for this whole season, would have been one of the up and coming open sides as a year 12 this year. And next year, I'm so keen to see what he turns out like, and having him back strong, because he would be one of those guys that I'd be like, man, I hope that he has a massive year, because he could potentially be a New Zealand secondary school player if Liam comes back and just fires off like he was as a year 11. But everyone in the Selwyn combined, and all of you guys at those schools, have got to start training in the off season like you guys belong there, and you got to start training like you guys are a top 4 team in the Miles Toyota Cup. Because beating St. Bede's is not just one of those easy things to do, but you guys deserve to win. St. Bede's shot themselves in the foot because they just, I have a feeling that they thought that it was an easy game, and you guys took it to them. That's the point of like this rugby stuff, is that, yeah, we still got to play the games regardless of what I may say or what, you know, the rest of the competition says. Don't worry about Selwyn, those easy win, easy points. You still have to kick the ball off, and then the whistle for full time still has to go, and you have to play every ruck and more that comes your way. It's just one of those things. But you smaller teams that think you're smaller, if you keep that mindset, it's just like you're just gonna stay there. Stop having this excuse like, oh, we're just a small time school and small time program. It's like, no, you're not. Fielding got over that pretty quickly. They went through like 3 or 4 years of like, oh shoot, no, we're better than what we actually are. And once that program got going, it's just like, no, they're a massive feature every single year nationally, and that's a small place. Fielding is such a small place, but they got a massive rugby program going where all the guys believe in what they can do and what they bring to this team and to this rugby program at school. Someone's got to be thinking the same thing. Wakatupu was one of those places that got to be thinking the same thing. Hibs, Whited Upper, and Whited Upper is the worst one because Whited Upper always have talent. They always have talent. They always have strong teams. But they haven't been able to fully separate themselves to go, hey, we're year to year a strong team. They have a good year, they miss out 2, they have 2 good years, they miss out 1. But Whited Up is one of those places where it's like, no, you guys should be strong every single year. It should be that. It should be one of those places. Pukekohe is going to be one of those places too. Got to stop making these excuses that you're a small place. You got so many good players out there. Taupo's got to be one of these places that starts lifting themselves up and going, hey, like, we've got to stop playing around with this fact that we're a small-time school. Get better at where you're supposed to be, and then get back into it. Whanganui College is working that out now. And so we've got to stop thinking about ourselves as these small-time teams and small-time blah, blah, blah. It's like, you guys beat one of the best teams in the country. It's like, yeah. Now start training like it. Start thinking like that, because that's exactly what you guys are. This is going to be an easy one. Like Nelson, Christchurch, St. Thomas, you guys are all in. Stack and St. Bede's are both playing for their lives right now. And St. Bede's is only ahead, like just ahead of them. And their for and against is St. Bede's is 193 and against is 207. And St. Andrews is 194, 179. And so it's, man. This is going to be a good one. St. Bede's need to win, St. Andrews need to win, and Christ College could actually make it through, just if everything falls right, they'll make it through. So Christ College is probably one on the side going, yeah, you fellas lose. If we win our game, St. Bede's lose to Shirley, it's like we could be actually on there jumping it up that way. Down in Otago boys, them and Southland boys are clearly ahead of everyone else. But Otago play King's College. I don't think they'll win. Wakatupu I don't think will beat Southland boys, but it's not. John McGlashan is playing South Otago High School, and South Otago High School could actually push and win this game. They shouldn't get blown out. If they get blown out, that's South Otago's fault, because they shouldn't get blown out. Their talent level is good right now, and they shouldn't get blown out of this game. But if they do, that's their fault, because they should either just beat John McGlashan or just lose, but they shouldn't get blown out. I think that it would be probably the week after would probably be the most important games, but because Wakatipu on the 29th will come up against King's College and King's High School, and typically King's High School should win that, but Wakatipu have a strong team, and they have a team that can battle it at that level. And if Wakatipu win, then I feel like they're the ones that are going to go through, because Otago will then play John McGlashan. If John McGlashan loses to South Otago, that would just make it easier for Wakatipu. But it is Otago and Southland, but it's going to be massive if Wakatipu make it through. And if they're able to get through, it's a success for them for the whole year. That's what I reckon. Other than that, that's us for the whole country, for all the big major ones around the country. I still haven't, after looking at that, I still don't actually know what games are going to be going to on Saturday. But thank you all for listening. Herschel Front, love you all, man. Later, Bolt.